Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Today we are reviewing an old movie that was remade, but we are doing the original one, which was made in 1974, or it came out in 1974, which was, I guess, a banner year for movies.
Safi, it has not been remade yet.
No, I think so.
No, I just looked it up. It has not been remade.
I thought they remade it.
No.
Okay, well, whatever. We saw the award-winning movie because it won a lot of Golden Globes and it won at least one Academy Award, but they decided that year to spread the Academy Awards out, and boy, did they spread them out. So, anyway, it was 1974, and it was called Chinatown. And it is well known for it being one of the best noir movies ever made, even though it was in color, but the picture...
Yeah, it's in full color.
Which surprised me.
Remember Fargo Season 4? They're trying to be noir, so that's why they suck all the color out and don't have any lighting in any of the scenes. It's because it's noir.
But this is in color, but the picture... I checked it out of the library, the Hoopla site, and the picture of the movie is black and white. So I thought, oh, this is going to be a black and white movie on purpose because it's 1974, so they don't really need to do that. So anyway, so when it started, it's like, it's in color.
What?
Okay. What do you mean, oh?
That doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, that's what it was.
What are you talking about? It was in black and white, but then it was in color.
The picture...
The poster?
Of the poster, whatever, of Jack Nicholson. There's a poster on the Hoopla site.
Well,
That's
Safi.
how I found it to watch it. It's in black and white.
Well,
Then when I started the movie, it was all in color.
Well, Safi.
I was a little bit shocked because I thought, because the poster was black and white,
No.
that the movie was going to be in black and white.
That's not how posters work, Safi. You know that there's,
Well,
you know,
this is
all
1974,
the black and white movies that we've seen. How many of those movies have black and white posters?
Probably none.
Oh, well then, why would it be any different for this? Of like,
I don't know.
You know, why would you expect
some
that?
reason, that's what I thought.
It's pretty funny.
I did. Well, I've never seen the movie before, and if I had, it was probably when it first came out, and I don't remember it at all.
Well, the poster doesn't tell you anything. I mean,
no, not at all.
When I saw the poster as a kid, I just felt like, you know, what is this movie? Is it about Chinatown and some sort of a Chinese mystery with lots of smoking or something? Like, I didn't have any idea that it would be about the story that it was about, so...
No, not at all. And they said it's a true story, but they changed around a lot of things, the characters, and some of the plot, because they didn't want it to resemble the real thing. It would be a problem. So that's fine.
It wouldn't really be a problem anymore, though, because all those people are probably dead.
Yeah.
So they should talk about the true story, because I would be more interested to know about that. Because this movie is a movie by itself. You know, I guess as we get into talking about it, I would just say overall it's a very good movie. It is a very well-made movie. It has a great ending as a movie. But then at the very end you think about, well, what was all of this worth? Like, nothing in the movie really amounts to anything. And there's nothing good that really comes out of the movie.
No.
So, like... What is the movie worth? Like, what was the journey worth? Like, what's the message that you come across with, or that you come out of the movie with? What's the message there? Because, like, at least in Killers of the Flower Moon, you know, in that movie, at least some bad people did get what they deserved at the end. And at least, you know, they figured out one of the big mysteries going on. But in this movie, it's like fuck that. Boom. The ending.
And a very dark ending.
Boom. And so it's like you're just sitting there thinking about like, okay, what is all this worth? Safi, you got to answer that.
I don't know that because if I say what it's about, then it'll give a whole movie away, won't it? It's about corruption wins, and everything. If you want to explain away corruption, just say it's Chinatown. That's at least for there. That's what that means, and it's a very famous symbolic thing to say. Everything happens in China. It's almost like that Las Vegas thing. Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, this is about it's Chinatown, and that means so anything bad can happen there. Any kind of corruption, because people there are Chinese and they don't know what's going on and they don't care. They just want to stay away from it.
The reason why I say that I don't think that this movie is worth anything in terms of what that means is that, like, because I know that sounds like the movie's a bad movie. No, what I mean is, like, when you have a story, at the end of the story was worth something because they had a reason for telling it, and you know at the end because the ending happens. Like, in Psycho, you find out at the end who's the killer and why he did it, and that's worth something because he was committing all those murders. But in this movie, there's nothing at the end that makes you feel satisfied about, like, the journey. And apparently, there were supposed to be not only one other sequel, because they did make a sequel in the 90s. I don't know why they waited so long. That was kind of a weird flub. I don't know why they waited.
What do you think? Polanski is the one who directed it because he had to leave.
Pedolansky had to flee once again because that's what he was really good at, leaving the country when it was most convenient for him. And but no, that doesn't have anything to do with, like, making a sequel. There was supposed to be a third movie too, and so, like, I just have to wonder, like, what would have been in the third movie and then what's in the second movie, and does it make this story worth anything more than it is? Because the main character, Jake, his character is a really cool detective, and he doesn't really get anything for what he does.
No.
At the end of the movie. It's like a big like FU. And so, like, I would have liked to have seen a second one and a third one where maybe he does get something out of it and he actually achieves something. Because it felt like this whole movie was for nothing. Like, the whole story was for nothing. Like, you exposed this corruption, but you didn't. It would be like if they did the All the President's Men, and at the end of that movie, it's like, oh, we're not writing an article about that because it's Chinatown. Forget about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, and you're right. He doesn't get anything.
Yeah.
Because, well, I don't want to say because I don't want to give it all away.
Well, we're going to be doing that.
Because it comes up at the end, so I don't want to say, but no, he, I guess he survives and he doesn't get murdered.
Yeah, I guess that is a saving grace because in a lot of movies, especially nowadays, especially a lot of Debbie Downer movies, which this movie is a Debbie Downer, I guess, you always kill the main character and it'll be some stupid thing where they're like, I'm doing this for you. And, they're sacrificing themselves or some stupid shit. And, so I was glad that he didn't die.
He could have easily.
Because then I would have given the movie a bad review. Would you?
Probably. I mean, but I would have had to seen the whole movie. But yeah, because there were so many people who could have knocked him off. It wasn't funny, and it was close a few times. It was very close, and he almost had his entire nose cut off with a knife.
Yeah.
He got it slit. Now, I don't even know if he got stitches or not. I don't know if those bandages were bandages he put on or he went to the hospital or what.
Well, that's like an iconic thing. I feel like any movie or a show that has someone with like a bandage on their nose, like for some reason is just like a little bit better than movies and shows where they don't have bandages on their noses. Right?
Yeah, but it was a big bandage.
It's like a cool aesthetic. It's a cool like wardrobe choice of like, you know, like instead of having like a scar on his face or something, he's just got a big bandage on his nose. And he's got those glasses, which he ends up stop using them because they get broken. Right?
Which is a shame because they were cool.
The sunglasses.
Sunglasses were cool. The cars were cool.
Yeah.
The hats. The men's fashion was the hats. The fedoras were really cool. And I just said it. The cars were just unbelievable. The one that Faye Dunaway drove, that was amazing.
Yeah, the car looked a lot better than her.
Well, I didn't even recognize her. It said Faye Dunaway, and then at the beginning, when the movie starts, you have somebody come in, and she looks like her, but I thought, that isn't her, is it? Because the girl had red hair. And Faye Dunaway, I've always thought she had blonde hair.
Yeah.
And so she was not the real person in the movie. She was a fake because they were trying to. It was all part of a big plot, and it was just. There's so much corruption and plots.
Yeah, the movie's
conspiracy in this movie. It's just, and it's not real obvious.
Yeah.
At first, not for a long time. It doesn't really hit you in the face until probably the last half an hour.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I'm just thinking back on it. I just can't. There's just
very complicated.
Very complicated.
This
but
is
they kind of weave together, though.
This is a movie you have to pay attention to. I feel like.
Yeah, I took notes for the whole thing.
If this movie came out nowadays,
I don't think people could.
People wouldn't watch it. They wouldn't be able to handle it because it's too hard to pay attention. They'd be like, this movie has too much talking. Like they said that about that Bond movie. They said that Logan Paul walked out of Oppenheimer because he couldn't handle it.
Oh.
And, people like him, and I just feel like if they made Chinatown today, that's what would happen. A bunch of people would say I couldn't really get into it because it was too slow. I prefer movies where stuff happens, like the new Marvel movie. Yeah, that's what they would say. Right, Safi?
Probably. But they're the conspiracies and the plots, and there's no good resolution. None. Which is really bad.
What?
What we just said, he ends up with surviving.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he doesn't get a broken leg or broken arms or hands, or he doesn't get any. This injury, this cut nose, was basically the most damage he sustained.
He did get beat up.
He got beaten up
as well.
Big deal.
What?
That happens all the time. He didn't
really?
lose. He didn't lose anything as a result.
Have you ever gotten beaten up, Safi?
No.
Oh.
No, but he didn't lose his life.
Oh.
And to me, he was lucky. Because there was just so much corruption. There
I
was
just
so
think
many conspiracies. It's mind-boggling.
You know what he should have done? He should have just blamed it on the rednecks in American Horror Story Roanoke. Because it seems like those rednecks can get blamed for anything that goes wrong. Right?
Well, let's just not talk about it
right
now.
Wasn't that funny?
Yeah, it is funny. Cause, I would have. Okay, we're not going to talk about that now. We're not going to even say anything.
Well, it's true though. It's like because I didn't need the mystery. I didn't need for the bad people to be exposed or something like that. I just needed for there to be a point for Jake, the main character, to have done all this stuff. Because at the end of the movie...
Well, he tried to help.
Yeah, he tried to, and he just wasn't able to achieve anything.
He couldn't because he was up against too much corruption.
But I just feel like
everywhere.
At the end, he should have at least been able to walk away from the movie with something. Like, not in terms of defeating the main bad guys, but just walking away with some sort of, like, some sort of a good reason for having gone through all that. Because if I were him, I wouldn't really be so mad about the corruption and all the stuff that was going to happen. I would just be mad that I just wasted a lot of time doing that investigation. Like, how many months did he spend on that?
I don't know. You can't tell by...
He's spent a long time going around, sitting, talking, smoking, following people, taking pictures.
He did a lot of investigating.
Putting up with Faye Dunaway.
Ugh.
And, like, he deserves something, like, some sort of, like, takeaway. Like, what's the takeaway? I can't do my job because Chinatown sucks? Like, that's the takeaway that he has at the end of the movie. It's like, fuck you. And it's like, you know, in real life, that does happen sometimes, but eventually the truth gets out. You know, that's always been the case for the most part, except for with, like, you know, there are mysteries that, you know, can never be solved, but, like, I don't know. But Safi, what do you think about that?
Well, it's sad, but it's true. He just couldn't. He didn't get anything and I'm not saying he has to.
Yeah, like, they should have at least given him a prize. You know, like,
his prize was his life. That was his prize.
No, they should have given him, like, a toy or something. You know, like, after you go to, like, a, you know, like, the cat, after he goes to the vet, he'll get, like, a toy or something.
Not him. He's a very bad boy.
Or a sucker or something.
No.
You know, like how at Dot's Market, you know, they used to have the little lollipop bucket. You know, like, why couldn't they at least give Jake, like, a lollipop? You know, like a little dum-dum. That would at least make the journey a little bit worth it, because, hey, he got a dum-dum out of it.
Unbelievable.
Right?
No.
What? Why? You don't like dum-dums?
I don't think that's really dumb. Don't.
Why?
Don't.
But he could have at least gotten something out of the movie.
He got a Golden Globe.
That's the actor.
And he got a...
The character didn't get jack shit.
No, he didn't get anything. He had two people who... he had a staff of like 3 people at least. And he had a secretary, and he had a person who took photographs, and then, of course, that person might ask some questions, you know, investigative work. And then he had another person who asked questions. So he had a staff of, I mean, you know, that helps, especially in a case like this. But it's just like he was so surrounded by corruption, I don't think he even realized how bad it was. I
wanted to see more of his staff, too, because I was surprised that
see them much.
There wasn't any, like, subplots where, like, his secretary gets, you know, beaten up or something. You know, like, there's nothing like that happens, and I was surprised by that because, you know, in a lot of these detective stories, you don't just go after the detective, you go after people working with the detective, right?
Yeah. Because you're trying to get to the detective, and if you can't get them, you get everybody around him, and that gets them to stop investigating.
Yeah. So I thought that they would do that, especially after they were going to cut off his nose, and they warned him, and then he just didn't care at all. I mean, he didn't even act like it bothered him.
He was mad.
He was mad.
Really mad.
Yeah.
And what happened was, Faye Dunaway, and first it was somebody else. It wasn't her. It was somebody imitating her. And there was a reason for that. I wasn't quite clear. It was to, I guess, draw somebody out or whatever. But anyway, what was I going to say? And then you find out what happens is, he has his associates, and the girl asks him, she pretends to be this wife of this prominent person who who's in charge of the water department. And so she wants to know if he's having an affair. I guess it was they were really trying to draw out the person that he was having an affair with. Well, I don't know, was he having an affair? I never got that. It was this person, and they wanted it's just so complicated. I'm just trying to see how I can shorten it here.
Yeah,
but
because
anyway,
it also feels like something that you really should watch a second time.
No way I can even explain.
No, it's something that you should watch a second time because there's so much stuff that happens.
Well, the person takes pictures of them having an affair, being together, because it was another woman, and they got published in the paper. Well, he didn't do that. The detective didn't do that. So the real wife comes and presents him with papers to be sued. And that's when it all starts, where he goes to her and he says he's pissed off. Somebody because her husband gets killed. And so he says, I'm pissed off. He doesn't say it like that because they say that kind of stuff in the movies. But anyway, he says, but I want to know who's behind this and what's it all about. And that's where everything starts. The whole investigation. And so the woman who posed as her, it was somebody else. So, and then, you have to figure out, why did that happen? What was her husband killed for? What is going on with this? They have a big water thing, which is always a big problem out west. Colorado, everywhere. They have this problem with water rights and,
as if anyone should be able to own the rights to water.
I know, and ranching, and of course in California you have all these fruit and vegetable farms, and then you have the people who live in LA. Well, they have to have drinking water, so it's all about. The whole main focus, at least half of the 50% of the focus, is about the water, and then the other 50% is the wife's dad, and it's really almost shocking, I think, and I think it would have been to audiences back then. I don't know for you if it was shocking. I
was spoiled the twist.
I've heard the story before.
I was spoiled the twist because Californication Season 2 talked about it, and unfortunately, I have a really good memory, so, I was not able to forget about it, so... But
I worked for places that dealt with incest.
That was, one of my favorite scenes because... Jake literally beat the truth out of Faye Dunaway, and it was really satisfying seeing Faye Dunaway get beat up.
Well, he was so mad because, here he is, he almost loses his life.
Yeah.
Or his nose, or both. And, she's just been monkeying around with him and not telling him the whole truth.
Yeah, that always happens in these detective movies. You have these characters. They're like, I told you everything. And it's like...
No, they didn't.
No, that's never the case.
And I think he knew that anyway. But he just didn't... He just wanted to figure out some of it for himself so he could... Well, it was an accident, basically. Because... Sorry. Another man and her husband were killed. But I think... was it... Her husband and the man had both drowned, but what was inside their bodies was salt water.
Yeah.
And so at the very end, which at least this is only part of the plot, because it's so complicated, but anyway, This is just this part.
I think this is probably the first time Safi has not been able to go through every detail painstakingly.
There's no way I can. It's just too... It would be better if you watched the movie yourself, if you can handle it. But anyway, well, it's not bad. I mean, it's very interesting to see everything, the cars and the wardrobe, and the music isn't that fascinating. It's jazz.
It's pretty good at points.
Yeah, it's not.
It's
just not good all the way through.
There's other points where it's kind of weird and it doesn't fit.
It's just there, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's looking for her. This is near the end because he's like, "What the hell is going on?" She'd already told him some of it. No, she hadn't, because that's how he found out. But anyway,
I thought that she told him that was the girlfriend that her husband cheated on her with, or something.
Yeah, I think so. See, we're just trying to think now, because like I said, it gets so complicated. But he goes to her house, and the maid's covering everything up, and she's leaving. And she's taken this girl. Who's the girl? Oh, she's taken her and gone with their, what would you call him, butler, to Chinatown at a place at their family's house. It's like a way station for them, a safe place. And then he's looking at the garden, or a person who takes care of the gardens, maybe, in the pond, and he said something about, "Oh, this salt water is really bad for the plants." And yeah, it is. And he stops right there because he said salt water. And then he goes over to where the guy's sitting by the pond, and there's something shiny.
Well, see,
I couldn't see what it was at first.
He wanted to get that. He wanted to get that out earlier in the movie, actually, and he didn't. He saw it earlier in the movie.
Oh, he did. I didn't see that.
And then she takes him on to talk, and he isn't able to get it. And it's like, he was very close to solving the mystery right there.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was somebody's glasses. Eyeglasses. Somebody who wears bifocals.
And I feel like the guy who committed that murder, he really, really didn't care. Because, like, even if you committed that murder in, like, a place that you're comfortable in, why would you leave, like, that obvious evidence right there? Well, it's just because he didn't care.
No, because he knew he'd get away with it.
Yeah.
He knew he'd get away with everything. Well, anyway, he thought that was her husband's glasses, and that he had been murdered there. And didn't he think that she killed him?
Yeah.
So and the cops were looking for her. And so she told him where she was, and he told the cops where she was. And he went there first, and he told her the cops were coming. Well, then that's when she tells him the truth. This is only like the 50% of all of the complicated plots. Go ahead, Marco.
What?
You want to talk about this plot, or you want me to tell what the plot was?
Well, that's like your specialty when it comes to doing reviews.
Okay, well, he can talk about the water plot. It's not really that hard. You just say briefly what it is. And okay, well, anyway, it turns out the girl, her father raped her, and she had a baby when she was 14, I think. And that's her daughter and her sister. And he would slap her, and she'd say, "She's my sister." And he'd slap her again. "She's my daughter." Then he'd slap her again. "She's my sister." And he'd slap her again. "She's my daughter." And he kept doing that. Then she says, and then she tells her father is Mr. Cross. And Mr. Cross is bad. And he worked with her husband. This was bizarre. They used to own the water company. How does private people own a water company, a utility? I mean, the water. It just, because nowadays, if you get your water, you get it from the city or whatever. You don't get it from a private people. And so, starts with the other plot. So anyway, the father wants the girl. He wants the daughter. Why? Because that's all he has left. I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Well, so he doesn't want to rape her too? Because
that's what I was wondering too.
Because I thought
maybe if he raped his own daughter, what would stop him from raping her? And I think she was afraid of that too. So she was trying to keep her away from him, and they were going to leave. She was going to take her to Mexico, and the Chinese servants were keeping them safe.
Yeah, because as we all know,
Chinatown.
as we always know, in Mexico, there's no such thing as Chinatown. It's Cartel Town in Mexico. It's a lot better than Chinatown. Right, Safi?
I don't know what to say to that. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's 50% of the story, really, having to do with the father who's corrupt, and he has his fingers everywhere, and he has his corruption everywhere, because this company, I don't understand, but they sold it to this other guy, and this is where John Hillerman came into play, and he used to be on that thing with Tom Selleck, and they remade it. It's a modern thing, but he was their go-to guy or something who helped him, I think, in that Magnum P.I. He was the main guy. He was one of the main actors in Magnum P.I., but that's where I'd seen him before. But now here's the second part of the plot. This is why the husband was killed. He did not want to participate in this evil plot. Okay? And the evil plot was to I don't know how to explain it, but they wanted the city to build, and the state to build a dam or a reservoir, so the city of LA could have this water. In truth, they were doing these things, and don't ask me how it works because it's very complicated. They were going to divert the water to the orange groves up in this other area of California. And the people in the city weren't going to get anything from it at all. And the husband of Faye Dunaway didn't want to participate in it. And what they were doing to get this land where these orange groves were, this farmland, they were poisoning wells, and they were threatening, and they were stealing, and there's all kinds of complicated parts. It's a huge plot with lots of different arms. And the husband didn't want to participate, and he murdered him. The father did. They were really good friends, and they really liked each other, but the husband did not want to participate. He thought it was wrong. And that's why he got killed. So that's the other 50%. That's only part of it. It's so huge. But anyway, the bad thing...
Oh, God, you're going to keep explaining it?
Just the bad thing about it was that the cops were corrupt, too. And I think that's where Jake didn't... He was... What would you call it? He didn't figure that out, I guess. Except when they said at the end, this is Chinatown. Remember?
So, I feel like the movie is really interesting because it feels kind of like you're reading a book. It feels kind of like you're really going through like a rich story But my biggest problem is, as I said, that at the end he doesn't really get anything out of doing the movie.
He doesn't. He gets nothing. Because guess what happens? Faye Dunaway gets killed, and the father, or the grandpa, takes the girl. She's a victim. She's an incest person, and he takes her. Why? And it's a dark ending, and she gets murdered. I thought that they were that the cops shot her, but I thought they were shooting at the tires.
Well, that was a weird thing as well for me, is that those cops were like really good shots, because like,
yeah,
somehow
handguns too.
She was like already like speeding away, and somehow they were magically able to shoot her in the eye, like just a perfect headshot. Like, I was kind of suspicious of that, because I felt like it was too perfect to get that shot. Like, I could barely even see her, like, in the car.
I know.
And so how could the police in real life see her enough to shoot her?
And what happened is she had a gun, and she shot John Huston because he was trying to take the girl out of the car, trying to rip her out. And so he shot at him. And, of course, the cops, they have the legal right, I guess, to shoot her because she's trying to shoot him, to stop her. And so she's speeding away, and she's a pretty good distance away. And they shoot at the car a bunch of times, and I thought they were just shooting at the tires to get the car to flatten out and stop. But they killed her. So he doesn't get the girl.
So anyways,
and the guy and the granddaughter goes with her father, and it's all from incest.
So anyways, after Safi's done just explaining everything over and over again.
No, I didn't explain everything, but there's no way I could ever.
Yeah, unfortunately for you.
No, unfortunately, it's just too complicated.
But so the big thing to talk about with this movie is it a good detective movie? And I feel like it is a pretty good detective movie, but it's not a great detective movie. I feel like there's a lot of Hitchcock movies that I've seen that are better at being a detective movie than this. And I feel like there are a lot of other ones too. I can't think of them right now because...
What about that Rope movie?
Rope?
Yeah.
That's a Hitchcock movie. I just said Hitchcock movies.
That's a good... Because they figure it out.
Well, I don't really consider that a detective movie. A detective movie is called a detective movie because there's a detective in it solving crimes.
Well, I guess you can think about Monk or Columbo.
Yeah, and Monk is better than this movie.
Yeah, that is. Because the detective part is really good in Monk. Figuring things out, so, yeah.
That's the big thing to talk about because, like, in terms of being a detective movie, it does have all the classic, like, detective cliches and tropes. It has all the, like, detective story characters, like the femme fatale, and it has, what else, Safi? Smoking, and it has...
smoking, fedoras.
Red herrings.
Fuel cars, yeah, lots of red herrings.
So it really feels like it set a precedent for what detective movies should be like. But I honestly don't know, like, what detective movies were inspired off of this movie, because I haven't really felt like I've seen a movie that was like this, really.
No.
So, Safi?
I don't either.
You have any original thoughts to add?
No, I don't remember any. I don't know of any detective movie. I guess if you think of Agatha Christie movies, or
well, those are inspired off of the books.
Or Sherlock Holmes movies.
Well, those are inspired off of books as well.
There was that movie that came out with Angela Jolie, who it was based on a true story, and a story was discovered by accident. The person had been doing research on something else and discovered this thing about all these kids disappearing, and I can't remember, it came out I don't know, in the 2000s, the earlier 2000s.
That's not a detective movie.
No, but they have to investigate.
Well, that's not
But
a
she
detective
does-
movie.
No, I don't know then. I don't know what detective movie, because all I can think of is that's detective in terms of a movie would be something was comical.
Comical.
Like, what's his name? Inspector Clouseau? Or
Batman?
No.
Inspector Gadget?
No, Inspector Clouseau, the Pink Panther. He's supposed to be a detective, isn't he?
Well, Batman is the greatest detective, so...
Yeah, that would be, I guess. He's not a traditional one with the fedora and those kind of guns that they have, and
Well, they tried to make the 3-hour Batman a noir movie, remember?
I guess
The 3-hour one that nobody liked. Safi.
We saw all those movies in one night, and that's all I can remember. It was torture.
Well, so is this movie rewatchable? I feel like maybe one time, but not really more than once, because as I said, I really prefer detective movies where the character gets something out of what they do, because it feels more satisfying that you spent 2 hours watching this story and he got something out of it, rather than at the end it's like, fuck you.
Well, he had a matter-of-fact attitude in that he was trying to earn a living. This was his living. And he was investigating not just for the investigating and knowing, but also because he is trying to earn his living. That's his job. And, of course, he has all those employees, too. He's got to pay them. So it's a business. And he said that several times during the movie, and maybe it was just a cover for, he really wanted to help her, he cared about her, and then there was all this corruption, and he wanted to somehow, that's another thing, none of the corruption is solved, none of it, and then you find out the police are in on it too. So it's like, that's another thing. You're talking about him not getting anything out of it. Nobody else gets anything out of it either. It's a very dark ending. Because the city of LA's not really going to benefit from that water. Who's going to know about it? Nobody.
And as I was trying to say, I came out of this movie really thinking more like, well, I'd like to see what happens in the sequel, because...
Yeah.
The character was really good himself, and I felt like it could have been a great establishing point for a trilogy, but as it is all by itself, it's just kind of pretty good and not really great, because I've seen better detective stories, and it's not because it's in the 70s, that's not an issue for me. It's
not at all.
It's just I've seen better stories, and I feel like, it was a good story, but it would be better if there was another story where he actually accomplishes something. You can have this Debbie Downer story, and then you can have part 2 where he solves the mystery and exposes whatever, and then maybe part 3, you have another Debbie Downer movie. But just all by itself, it's it's a Debbie Downer. Right, Safi? How could you watch this movie more than, twice? How could you really, take pleasure in seeing this story again, knowing that it's all, leading to the ending?
Well, because nothing good is going to happen. I mean, nothing.
Yeah, you've said that now.
I know that, but I mean, there's no way that you could, unless you want to depress yourself, that you want to watch this. You at least want to find, and you think God, what's the world coming to? when you watch that, because everything there, it was all this corruption, and it was all conspiracy everywhere on all levels. And he even said that he didn't, I don't think he knew about the cops, because one of the cops, the main one, was somebody he had worked with as a former police officer in Chinatown. And so that was kind of that was like the cherry on top for the corruption, because everything else, he said, like, he thought everybody in town was in on this scandal with the water. He said that to her. And he says he doesn't care. He's just trying to earn a living, and he wants to find out whatever, who the murderer was or whatever. Because he didn't figure it out right away that it was that her father, although she told him that he was a bad, evil person. But I mean, she could have meant it because he raped her. But I mean, he was bad and evil for a lot of reasons, not just because he raped her and fathered a child.
Well, so do you have anything else to say about the movie?
I don't know what else to say. I just, it was a very solid movie. It's just the fact it has such a dark ending that makes it not very rewatchable in terms of multiple.
I did really like the aesthetic. I thought it was beautifully shot. The whole movie's really pretty. There's lots of really nice pictures. Like, I really like the sequence where he's at one of the orange groves, because I just loved all the oranges, and I loved the way that it looked. It was really cool, that little action sequence. And I like some of the fighting, bare fist fighting and the all that, like at the nursing home and everything. And so, Safi?
Yeah, we've even got a nursing home segment of the corruption. I mean, it just like, it goes everywhere. It's like an octopus. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a movie like that.
Really?
Or any kind of story where just everything. I guess nowadays I've seen it, but not in any movie or show where everything has just been, everything has been corrupted.
What about Killers of the Flower Moon?
Well, they managed to resolve some of it.
Because of
not very much.
Because of the FBI, not because of anyone around in that area.
That's right. And even the governor
Yeah.
was in cahoots with the conspiracy. The governor of Oklahoma. Okay? Yeah,
Well, they should have gone into that too then. Or I guess they didn't have time. It was already 3.5 hours.
Was it a 3.5 hour? I'm talking about, how long was that movie we
Chinatown?
just watched? 2.5?
2 hours and 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But it felt longer because a lot of stuff happened.
Yeah.
And it's very casually paced. The only time in the whole movie where the pacing really picks up is the last 10 minutes, where it's like all of a sudden... in fact, it's a lot like those Goosebumps books, the Slappy World ones, where, it's very casually paced, and then at the end it's like, okay, we got in now, really quickly.
Yeah, we only have so many more minutes, we can do this. So many more words in the story.
That's what happened.
Yeah, that's right.
Safi, what would you grade the movie in terms of food?
Well, I guess I would give it a turkey meal with mashed potatoes and gravy and stuffing. That's about it, though. I don't think I'd give it a pumpkin pie, because that would be a reward for something, except he got his life. He could have easily been murdered and drowned in the salt water in his lungs, too. Or he could have lost his nose and been cut up, or shot, or beaten to death. I mean, he was at risk all the way, almost through the whole movie.
Yeah.
That he was really smart, and also she helped him. She saved him one time. She she drove by and picked him up real quickly, and they left. And he was in danger of getting killed. How about you?
I have to give it something that probably will make people think that I'm giving the movie a bad review. Or just like not really a great review. I would give this movie a baked potato with butter, and that's it. And you know, you can have really good meals with like a baked potato. Like you could have a pork chop with a vegetable and then a baked potato, or you could have lamb with something and a baked potato. You could have a steak and a vegetable and a baked potato. But when you just have a baked potato all by itself, it's not really as good. It's just okay, and it's just something where it's like, yeah, that was pretty good, but like, will I ever have just a baked potato again? No, not really. I'll have something else with it. You know, even like just making it a cheesy baked potato would improve it. You know, or a cheesy baked potato with bacon. You know, like that would improve it. But just a baked potato with butter all by itself, that's not really a full meal to me. And I know that, you know, it is a full movie, but it's not really. Because as it was supposed to be, it was supposed to be the first movie in a trilogy. And in trilogies, you have character arcs, you have story development over the course of 3 movies. And if you just have that first movie in the trilogy, you can't give it that full meal. Unless it's really, really good. Like, I don't know. I can't really think of any trilogies because there's not really any trilogies anymore. They've always made a 4th one. So, right, Safi?
Those first 3 Star Wars movies,
No, that doesn't count anymore because that's not a trilogy anymore.
Yeah, but a million years ago when they first came out.
That doesn't count anymore.
Okay. That's all I can think of.
Yeah.
In terms of a trilogy.
Really?
If one of you can one of you can think of a trilogy, let us know. So, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers. And tell us if you've seen the movie and what you thought about it. Or if you've seen anything else that you like. Did you see Killers of the Flower Moon? And what did you think about that? And having a coughing problem. So, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.